Here is one overreaction for every NBA team after the first week. Said it once, I'll say it again. Overreacting this early on is super fun. Now, I never take my overreactions too serious. I don't think anybody really should, but it's fun to look at the small sample size and be like, oh, this team looks pretty cool. Oh, this guy looks amazing. Oh, this guy started off slow. Should we be worried? It's as long as you don't take it too seriously, it always is fun to overreact. So let's see exactly what we got today. The Atlanta Hawks sound the Jalen Johnson got the bag and followed in John Collins' footsteps alarm. No, thank you. I'm not sounding the alarm. No, thank you. I rebuke this type of energy. Jalen Johnson will not turn into what John Collins turned into. I'm just going to say a hard no. I mean, this is supposed to be overreactions, and Jalen has not started off the season very well. We can all agree there. But sometimes you just start off slow. That's all I'm saying. This is a slow start. This is one I will not accept as an overreaction. Matter of fact, you're overreacting too much. How about that? Yeah, this is too much of an overreaction. Boston Celtics. This year's championship race is already over. Even though I don't completely agree, I don't think this is much of an overreaction. Like, they are still my favorite to win it all. I think they're a lot of people's favorite to win it all. Because even last night when they got their first loss, they were down by 18 points in the fourth quarter and came all the way back to go to overtime at least. Like, this team is really, really good. They were really, really good last year. They dominated the regular season and postseason. They're starting off their regular season dominance again. And guess what? They still don't have Kristaps Porzingis. I don't think this is much of an overreaction. If it wasn't them, then I kind of would be surprised, if I'm being honest with you. Brooklyn. Cam Thomas is about to make history. Here's every player to average over 30 points per game before the age of 24. Bob McAdoo did it twice. Oscar Robertson did it twice. So you got Kareem, Rick Barry, Walt Bellamy, Will Chamberlain, Luka Doncic. Yo, this is insane. This is insane. Cam, keep getting your buckets, bro. Because one of my favorite things is those random graphics that put players in a conversation or in a group that they don't really deserve. Like, can you imagine 20 years down the line? All of these dudes are Hall of Famers. This list just adds one more name, and it's Cam Thomas. You know that one graphic of Thaddeus Young being in the same conversation as LeBron and Larry Bird? That's kind of that. And listen, maybe this just means that Cam Thomas will be a Hall of Famer at the end of it. Maybe. If we overreacted, maybe. But yeah, keep doing it, Cam. Keep killing, getting your buckets. The team looks way, way better than I even expected to start the season. Next, the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo Ball is totally making an All-NBA team. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I think it makes it a little bit tougher for him because not only is he competing with other guards in basketball, but it's the forwards and the bigs. And these All-NBA appearances are typically on teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And though they've started off pretty good, and I have a lot of Charlotte Hornets stock, I can't say based on the first week of basketball that I'm guaranteeing that the Hornets make the postseason. But if they make the postseason, I think that's pretty legit because his averages are disgusting. There are a few players in basketball that are also averaging 6 turnovers per game. He's one of them. I'm going to go on a huge rant about this soon. Why does every guard in basketball feel the need to throw a jump pass? Did I already tell y'all how much that pisses me off? LaMelo Ball, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Halliburton, a lot of these younger guards leave their feet to throw a pass more often than not. And a few nights ago, I was watching Cade Cunningham. Maybe I already went on this rant. Did I go on this rant already? I was watching Cade Cunningham, and he had like 3 more turnovers than he needed to because he wanted to jump before he threw the ball. And you just get stuck in the air. I may have went on this rant already. I don't know. Chicago Bulls. Zach LaVine is better than ever. I think this is true. There's just one part of Zach LaVine's game that still bothers me, and that's his late game execution. Even against the Orlando Magic last night, they gave him the ball with like 1 possession to go and he turned it over. I hate that type of stuff, but he is still just a joy to watch. Like, I know that we're attempting to trade him and we might end up trading him by the end of the season. If we do or we don't, I'm okay because Zach LaVine has been one of my favorite Bulls ever. And he is a guy that has a lot of value. It's just at the end of the day, his contract is huge, right? So teams aren't looking that way with the second apron, but he can create his own 3. He can catch and shoot 3s. He's an absolute flamethrower. And with the Bulls playing faster and getting a lot of 3-point shots up, Zach LaVine's numbers are going to look amazing. So shout out to Zach LaVine. And hey, we have an over 500 record for the first time since 2022. Cleveland Cavaliers meet the actual second best team in the Eastern Conference. I think in my prediction video, standings prediction, I had them number 3. Like, I'm obviously really high in the Cleveland Cavaliers, and so far they're still undefeated. Some of those games were cupcake games against bad teams, but then they followed that up with a win against the Knicks and then a win against the Lakers last night, and not even just a win against the Lakers. They dominated that Lakers team. So pretty cool team, pretty good team, but I'm about to do a whole segment on my podcast. It drops tomorrow about the Cavs, so I don't want to get into my notes too much. Go watch that episode when it drops tomorrow. Cool. Next, we get the Dallas Mavericks meet the second best team in the Western Conference. I think this is fair. They came off a championship run, added some pieces like Klay Thompson looks phenomenal so far as a Dallas Maverick, and they're winning basketball games right now without Luka Doncic looking his greatest. Like his shooting splits are disgusting. So yeah, I would agree. As of right now, this is the second best team in the Western Conference, only behind OKC. Denver, what's the over? Okay, the Denver Nuggets will be a play-in team if Nikola Jokic does not win the scoring title. So far this season, we've had Jokic go for 40 against the Clippers. He went for 40. Was that 40 against is that the Raptors? Yeah. He had 40 against the Raptors. They pulled out a win in overtime. And then he had to throw 29, 16, and 15 against the Brooklyn Nets in an overtime game. It's been a struggle. But every single one of those games, they've needed Nikola Jokic, not just to be the MVP version of himself, but be the supernova MVP version of himself. And that's gotta be tiring. And it is cool for us fans to see Jokic have to dominate these games, but nobody else in their team is adding a lot of help, except for Brody hit that 20-point game a couple nights ago. So I don't think this is that crazy to think about, honestly. So I still believe they can win a bunch of games, but based on this first week, if you told me that they ended up being a play-in, it would make sense. I wouldn't bet on it, but it would make sense. Next, we get the Detroit Pistons. Detroit Pistons game should end after 3 quarters. Yes. They are the worst fourth quarter team in basketball right now. They are always in the game. Now, they did get their first win against the Philadelphia 76ers, who I can't even watch 76ers game at this point. That's how bad it is without Paul George and Joel Embiid. But yeah, every single one of the games they played so far, they've either had a lead or been down by single digits going into the fourth quarter, and then they lost. But they finally got a win. So yeah, worst fourth quarter team is never a conversation you want to be in. That's the same. Oh, wait, here we go. They are minus 28 in the fourth quarter. In the third quarter, they are plus 19. That's crazy. And something happens in the fourth quarter. But again, they won. They won last night, so it don't matter. Jonathan Kuminga should not have bet on himself. The weird thing about this, right? Steph Curry is out with this injury. Man, he's going to be missing a week or two, whatever the timeline is. Since Steph Curry's went out, Jonathan Kuminga has looked pretty good. I don't know what it is about the way Jonathan Kuminga plays and why it doesn't fit alongside Steph Curry. But with Steph Curry, he has looked awful. His minutes look dreadful on both sides of the floor. And right now, the Warriors are one of the best defensive teams in basketball, and Kuminga hurt them defensively, which is crazy. We think about the defensive tools that he has. But since Steph Curry's went out, he's looked pretty good, creating for himself, getting some, I don't know. He should not have bet on himself. It's too early to tell for me. Houston Rockets, there are too many good players on this team. And yes, this is mostly about Amen Thompson. Yeah, because like right now they have, or the NBA has a rookie of the year problem. Like right now, I guess it's Bub Carrington, averaging 10.5 points per game. And I do believe a guy like Reed Shepherd would probably be in the lead if he didn't play for the Houston Rockets, who again have just too many bodies. So yeah, I could see that a little bit. It's hard to develop and also stay competitive, and that's what they're trying to do, and that hinders some young players who deserve a lot of minutes from getting a lot of minutes to develop. So I can see that. Indiana Pacers, we're seeing the 2021 Atlanta Hawks. You know what? I hated this idea before the season started because this was a heavy talking point. You know, you think about the path that the Indiana Pacers had to go to the conference finals, and many people put it on the same playing field as Atlanta. And I pushed back on that because I think overall the Indiana Pacers have significantly more talent on their roster than what that Atlanta Hawks team did, especially when you consider John Collins' fall off after that season. But now it's not that crazy. Just because Tyrese still hasn't looked like the best version of himself. The identity that they've built for themselves as being this fast-paced, offensive-oriented team is kind of dying through the first week of the season, which is crazy. Before last night, they were in the bottom 10 in pace. And again, a lot of these advanced stats don't matter because it's such a small sample size. Like after one game, they went from like 21st to 12th after that Boston Celtics game. But their identity is up in the air. And that was the last concern I had about the Pacers going into the season because I thought they had tackled that. So it's not that crazy to think about them being this version of a 2021 Hawks, but I'll hold off on that just a little bit. Clippers, Zubac is going to win most improved player. I mean, I don't know if he put up a stinker last night. I think it was 6 points or something like that. But I think he was the heavy favorite going into last night. I mean, that pick and roll with James Harden has been incredible. And James Harden hasn't been a knockdown shooter or self-creator as far as percentages goes, but he's creating shots for his teammates, and Zubac has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. Even without James Harden on the court, he's been able to play steady and great basketball. So this would be pretty cool. JJ Redick is going to win Coach of the Year. I think that Kenny Atkinson early right now is the favorite. But JJ deserves some credit. Now he's 0-2 in the last two, so 2 back-to-back losses. So we see what happens there. The main thing I mentioned when we were talking about them being 4-0 at that point, or 3-0, whatever the number was they still weren't getting 3-point shots up, and I'm a little bit worried about that. And that has come back to bite them in the last couple games. So I'm curious to see what type of adjustments they can really put together. I guess they just don't trust their 3-point shot. When you're bottom 3 in 3-point frequency, it's like the Denver Nuggets, and I forget the team squished in between them and the Lakers, but they don't get a lot of 3-point shots up, and they actually right now they're giving a ton up. So it's a similar story to last year in that sense, where just thinking about what you're giving up from 3 and what you're receiving from 3, you're down by 9 points every single game, if we're making it very simple. So JJ deserves some credit for sure, but it's not all sunshine and roses. Next, we got the Memphis Grizzlies. Head coach Taylor Jenkins' rotations is either a telltale unnecessary and confusing as hell, or a combination of all three. Well, the problem is he's missing like 4 rotational players. And I'm not too much in the know. Like, I have seen some tweets from Grizzlies fans that are really, really upset about it. I'm going to pause on it because, I mean, he missed Jaren for a little bit. Marcus Smart has been awful and then hurt himself as well. Vince Williams and Gigi, those are 2 dudes that were staples in the rotation, or expected to be staples. They're gone. So, like, Pip Jr. has looked pretty okay, but he's playing more minutes than he probably should. Jay Huff, who just got a real contract a few days back, is probably playing a little bit more than he should. And the list goes on and on. Like, even like John Conchar had to start the second half last night because Marcus Smart got hurt. So yes, the rotations can be confusing, but it's hard to not be confused when guys that you thought were going to be there aren't there, and now you have to try to figure some things out. And I watched them very closely in that Bulls game, and it wasn't pretty. The rotations were not pretty whatsoever, but it also is like, I don't know what the alternative is. Miami Heat, Tyler Herro's embracing the permanent evolution on the offensive end. This is pretty cool because there's a lot of different directions you could have went with the Miami Heat. They decided to go with the positive direction, which I like that. Almost 30% of his field goal attempts are coming at the rim, a monstrous increase over his career average, even more pronounced relative to the previous 2 years. Yeah, I like that. His mid-range value, meanwhile, is basically half of where it landed for his career. I can't say I've completely locked into the Miami Heat. Like, even their last night game against the Knicks, I still haven't watched, and I got to because I want to see Big Purr, or the Bodega Cat, put up 44. So I'm going to take this at face value and say yes, because if you remember my Miami Heat video before the season started, the one thing I was talking about with Tyler Herro is that shot, not even shot selection, but it is more shot diet, because I think those two things are different. I know people on Twitter try to act like they're the same. In my opinion, they're different. Next, we get the Milwaukee Bucks. Sky's falling. Yeah, I saw this morning some Giannis trades. I'm like, oh yeah, y'all are bugging. The sky is falling 100%. But hey, these guys are holding hands in this picture, so it must be okay. Next, we get the Minnesota Timberwolves. They won the Cat Towns for Julius Randle trade, even though Dante DiVincenzo isn't consistently nailing his threes. Too early to say. Like, I think that, also a topic I'm going to talk about on the podcast, that the job is so much harder for Anthony Edwards right now. He's completely bought into being more of a 3-point shooter. He's leading the league in 3-point attempts, which is crazy. I think he's got 80 shots and 50 of them have been threes, which is just not the Anthony Edwards way. But if you're watching, it's hard for him to penetrate because nobody is trusting Julius Randle, and they're still figuring out exactly how to play these guys together, where sometimes it's Anthony Edwards top of the key trying to create or do something, and Julius Randle is spotted up in the corner, where he did hit 5 threes against the Sacramento Kings a few games back. He's not a threat there mostly, so they're just collapsing on the drive from Anthony Edwards. And it's like, okay, I don't want to take these long pull-up twos anymore. That's just not really my identity, I guess. And I'm just going to go for threes. And right now it's working. Like, he's shooting a career high from 3, so it's working. But, like, I'm gonna hold off on this one. Cat is starting to get a little bit more consistency in New York as well. Pelicans, this offense is cooked. Absolutely. I'm sorry, it is. It's just, I've watched them the last previous nights, both against the Golden State Warriors. Game number 1, Zion Williamson looked as dominant as ever. Game number 2, he shot 5 for 20. And then there's a clip on Twitter that I even retweeted or quote tweeted, where it's like them trying to run a pick and roll between their 2 best players. And that's all we ask for as fans. We want to see our best 2 players in the actions together. And it's not a threat. Nobody's scared of a Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram pick and roll, because Brandon Ingram is not a threat to pull up from 3, so it can go very under, and Zion is not a threat to pop whatsoever, so we know he's going to dive. It's just ugly. It's nasty. Pretend that they can and will shoot more threes. If you, no, I'm passing. Pass. And part of that, like, hey, their point guard is gone. Their point guard is injured. You know what I'm saying? New York Knicks, the Cat trade was a mistake. Well, this article was published yesterday morning before Cat put up 44 against a good defensive team. So I'm gonna say no. Like right now, oh man, I'm giving up all my podcast sauce. Hey, go watch the podcast. I'm gonna play it a third time. Right now, they're still a top 5 offense in basketball, even though their pace is very, very slow. They're top 5 offense in basketball. And their defensive numbers are not as bad as they look on paper, but I'll explain that. I'm gonna say pass on it being a mistake. It's way too early though, but I'm gonna say as of right now, no. OKC Thunder, this is the best defense of all time. Whoa, of all time is crazy. The 74-75 Washington Bullets currently own the lowest defensive rating in NBA history, having surrendered 0.91 points per possession. The OKC Thunder are about to shatter that mark. Oh no, pass. It's great. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Best of all time. If we're currently watching the best of all time defense by points per possession, when you consider the way the offense is right now, oh, we're truly, truly blessed. I'm gonna say it's not the case though. Orlando Magic, a pretty ridiculous drought is about to end. Are we talking about the drought that I always mention to them not having a top offense ever? Yes, they've never had a top 20. Well, not never. It's been since 2008 they've had a top 20 offense. This is the year. I love that. Not an overreaction. The 76ers, Caleb Martin and Drummond are going to start more games than Joel and Paul George. I have not watched more than three total quarters of the 76ers this season. Truly. When it's on the schedule versus the opposing team, I'm just assuming it's not going to be pretty, so I'm not there. So I'm going to pass on an opinion because I'm not watching as much as I thought I would be. Kevin Durant is going to text the Phoenix Suns governor, Matt Ishbia, in January demanding a trade site in minutes per game. Yeah, he's 36 and he's averaging, most minutes in the league right now. He was 6 last season. Kevin Durant loves basketball, so I'm going to say this is an extreme overreaction. Portland Trail Blazers, trade Anthony Simon. This is not no reaction. I think everybody wants to see them trade Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant, even though those dudes are pretty good at basketball, because it would open up more opportunity for some of the younger dudes. I think they want to. They just don't want to do it for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So not that much of an overreaction. Sacramento Kings, Keon Ellis made fun of head coach Mike Brown's war behind his back, and Brown found out. Basically, yes, he should be in the rotation. It is very weird to see him be as impactful of a defender as he was in the second half of last season, helping the Sacramento Kings not just be a better defense, but a competent defense for him to basically get DMPs. Now, they did say, oh my God, I didn't see this one. Mike Brown says Keon Ellis' spot in the rotation will be situational. What did I miss? Wow. I understand playing Kevin Huerter more, because you need some type of spacing in that lineup, but making it that Keon Ellis is a situational player. Oh, I must have missed something. The turnover issues are here to stay. Yeah, this team's not very good. It's just not good. It's not good. No Devin Vassell right now, so I'm going to hold off on giving a full opinion, because Devin Vassell obviously opens the game up so much more for Chris and for Wemby. But it's a bad watch right now, especially if you get Wemby not having an opportunity to be as aggressive as he want to be, because they're loading up on him every time he thinks about touching the ball, because there's no other threats on the court. You want to let Harrison Barnes shoot every shot he can. We don't guard that man out there. Toronto Raptors, RJ Barrett's the second most important player to the Toronto Raptors' future behind Scotty Barnes. Sure. I mean, when you got $190 million to 3 players, two of those 3 players better be important, even though Grady is pretty high on that list to me as well. Next, we get the Utah Jazz. The best player of the next good Jazz team is not on this year's. Yeah, I think that's fair. Even though I really like some of their younger players, like Keontae George, who's still trying to figure out what it's like to be a real point guard, and our boy Taylor Hendricks, who's out for the rest of the season with that gruesome injury. I think that they're just in the inception of it, and they're still waiting to get the potential 1A of their team. I don't think that 1A is there just yet. The Washington Wizards, the Wizards are about to Charlotte Bobcats. Now, that's a huge overreaction, because they won another basketball game yesterday, and Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr have the makings to be like positive defenders when they're on the court together. So I don't think they're going to be that bad, because when you think about the Bobcats, they're like the second worst team of all time. They're going to be bad. Trust, they're going to be bad. But that may be a little bit too much of a stretch. All right, that's one overreaction for every NBA team. What do you agree or disagree with? Let me know in the comment section.